That's a look-alike for the matsutake, but the matsutake doesn't have the red. That's focale. Focale. Tricholoma focale. Yeah. So clearly another, that's pretty close to the focale, but just like the matsutake, the stem base in the ash, out here often in the volcanic ash, not in mineral soil. There's a layer of volcanic ash. Does it apply here too? Yeah. So volcanic ash is always stem base. A unique thing many of you from Europe might never have seen unless out here or in East Asia, Gomphus floccosus, the woolly chanterelle, and then the other one is we have also Gomphus kaufmannii, and they used to be eaten, but they have supposedly a cumulative liver toxin, so they're not eaten anymore. And sometimes they're much nicer fluted, and this is a pretty ragged looking guy, but very beautiful mushroom. Right. So many people eat them without a problem, and supposedly one day you reach the threshold and then you keel over. So go on. They make good dice, I'm hearing here. Anybody? No. Oh, Gomphus, that's the difference. That's the Gomphus, that's the pig ear. That is, no, that's Gomphus floccosus. The other one is Gomphus clavatus, the pig's ear. We found yesterday a whole bunch and the day before, but I don't see them here today, which is a purple, somewhat chanterelle-like mushroom. Gomphus floccosus, because it has this floccate inside of the, often it's really a tube. Yeah, pig's ears is a good edible, and we don't know about any liver toxins in there. Well, let's stay with the chanterelle since this is. Yeah, you all know that. Phaeolus schweinitzii, the diasconch, the greenish coarse, beautiful fungus, turning a little dark here. Often growing in shelf-likes, concentric, quite a unique mushroom. Then, well, I just got what's in front of me. So here the admirable bolete, Boletus admirabilis, very velvety cap, lemon, yellow, or lime, green-yellow tubes, and very fat stem on decaying wood, and alright edible, maybe not in the top 10, but makes the top 20 maybe, and easy to identify, and it fruits even in dry seasons because it grows on decaying wood where the water is easily retained. So we pick quite a bit of them. Here we have a close relative to porcini, steinpilz, sap. This is the native, the native bolete here associated with Douglas fir, Boletus fibrillosus. So this one is one of the boletes that whose name is not going to be changed because it's closely related to Aegilis, and it has the reticulation on the stem, and it's all right tasting. It doesn't have that aroma of a porcini, but it's still a all right edible, but it's not abundant as porcini. So we find a few here, there. It can get up to that size, but that's a pretty good size for it, and but it's not abundant. Then we have the most common of our swillers out here in our forest here is Lakei, swillers or swillus, Lakei, you know, these are the American, messing up the vowels the American way here, sorry. And that's also Douglas fir associate. So we don't bother really eating it, but probably you could turn it into, grind it up and use it for a soup or so, and then you have some, it could contribute to good cooking. Let's see if we have another tomatosis. Swillus tomatosis.
making. Lake Lakei, L-A-K-E-I, L-A-K-E-I.
Oh, this one. Oh, very different group here. This is Escomite. Oh, see the sporulation.
Oh.
So, elephant saddle. Nice English name. See the elephants writing on there. This is now Helvella vespertina. We got a new name. We used to use the European name, Elastica, but now we have DNA done on it, and the northern one is vespertina, and we have one with oaks, that's Triophila on the west coast. That's gone. Yeah, Lacunosa that's a European name. Oh, there's another sporulation, and this is now vespertina. So you can eat it, you can fry it. Of course, it's like many of the ascos, it's poisonous when you would eat it raw, and you know, it's chewy. You can say that. And it fruits often after frost. So right now, there's no point. There's better stuff, but after frost, these guys, like for Halloween table decorations, perfect stuff. Copelandia, yes. Copeland's mycena, and that has a garlic aroma. So you can use that and get a little, when you're short in garlic, and put that on your, it still smells like it, so maybe pass it around, and don't sniff too hard, leave some for the others. Copelandia. Copelandia. So there's about 2,500 species of Cordinarius, Northern Hemisphere, but it's also down in Argentina, Chile, and Australia. So it's crazy. In North America, at least 1,000 of them, and I'm happy if I know 5 of them. And no, not from the purple ones. Even the nicest purple one, I can't attach a name to it. Violaceous I found, and that's, you know, you can eat that one. It turns black when you cook it. I never wanted to cook it again, but it's a gorgeous mushroom, especially also that velvety cap. It's in Europe as well, yes. So it's once at least. I don't know.
When in doubt, throw it
out. Yeah, no. So we know we have about probably 1,000 Cordinarius species, and we know so little about edibility. And it doesn't mean there's one we know that's deadly, Specisimus, which they have also in Europe, and here was Rainieriensis for Mount Rainier, and that can kill you supposedly 3, 4, 5 weeks after you eat it. And we had one case in eastern North America, some lady ate it, but she wouldn't let anybody on her property so that they could pick it and find out what she had. So, so Cordinarius, there's just so many unanswered questions, but there's a few eaten. And the gypsy mushroom, did anybody bring the gypsy? Okay, very good. That's a Cordinarius, and it didn't used to be a Cordinarius for a while. It was Rosides for a Swiss mycologist, but the Cordinarius, people say if they take this one out of Cordinarius, they have to break up all of Cordinarius. And you know, they feel like, well, 2,500 species, why would we break that up, right? So this is caparata is the scientific epithet, and that means shrivelly. You know, when you feel it, it has an uneven surface, and that's a good way to identify, and you always want to find that ring, which all the Cordinarius, you know, of the 2,500, probably 2,490 have a web. And then there's the 10 that are closely related to these guys that have a ring, and there's one in Colombia, and then there's a whole bunch down in the southern hemisphere, and one in Tibet, Emodensis, that has a purple hue and very few rings, but it gotta be Cordinarius. And let's see.
It's very good to uptake cesium, and if it is radioactive, then you get radioactive.
Oh, that's one too?
Yeah.
And I heard also
2 or 3 times, 200 or 300 times the Earth where it grows.
So the cesium has, you get a lot of radioactivity after nuclear accidents. Yeah. That luckily only happen every 500 years, right? You get in the environment, and I wasn't aware that gypsy is a concentrator of cesium. I just ate a whole bunch of hedgehogs in the Alps, and then I read the hedgehogs are also a specialist for cesium, hydnum, repandum for cesium concentration. Some people were very worried here about Fukushima and talked about big conspiracy that we don't get any figures, but we had a bunch of mycologists taking samples and measuring the cesium, and luckily it is watered down sufficiently coming all the way from Tokyo, you know, I mean, or from Japan. Many of you know the honey mushrooms, Armillaria. We have DNA told us we suddenly had 9 species, what was all Malaya group, wood decayers. I'd say of questionable reputation as edibles. Too many people get problems, not very serious, but we don't pick them as edibles because of digestive issues, and it's quite unpredictable. Usually we say the ones growing in clusters on wood are safer than there's some that grow solitarily on wood, and then that would cause some more. Who found that? Holy shit. It's a cordyceps. Cordyceps. So this used to be a cordyceps, then it was an elaphal cordyceps, and now it's a tulipocladium capitata. So this is a parasite, a truffle parasite on elaphal myces, and that's the learning. Whenever you find something like that, you gotta dig in the ground, and then you find the truffle it's parasitizing on. So these cordyceps, you might have heard, I'll show a lot of slides tonight of cordyceps, and they are primarily insect pathogens, parasites, and evolutionary they started out on grain, then they moved to insects, and a few moved over to truffles. So that's a, you found it? Excellent, yeah.
What is that?
Yeah, I wished. And often there's a whole bunch of them because the truffles seem to fruit together.
Yeah, no, we found those before here.
Yeah, I found my first European cordyceps a couple of weeks ago. And there was like 30 of them, but they were much smaller. And yeah, so great find. As you might see, so
The one that I saw was that somebody.
well, what should I tell you about the russulas? I don't have the patience. I learned we had Bert Butte or something from Belgium here, who is a global russula expert, and he told us he thinks we have about 1,000 species of russula. We have 400 names so far. 200 of them are European names, which probably half of them are no good. And so anybody who works on russula gives a lot of names in the beginning and then realizes, no, you got to start anew. So very difficult, and we do eat the shrimp russula, Svampeekskursion. Let's see if we see something like that in here. It usually has a little bit of a venaceous cap. It will have a tinge of red on the stem and then bruise brownish. This one is not. This one is hot. So I don't see anything that says shrimpy to me here. It's and that's a little bit. But the thing is with russulas, you basically can eat them all. There's one supposedly deadly in Japan, so stay away from the dark stain, the black staining one, because that's the one in Japan that's supposedly deadly. Amanitas is probably our silvicola, got a smell. We have 2 white frequent amanitas out here, silvicola, that's stout, and then we have Smithsoniana, which is a much taller one, and the stem base smells like bleach, intense bleach. Really cool smell. The risk is that people who want to find Matsutake, you know, intense smell, that should be Matsutake. So yesterday I had somebody smell it. It's total bleach, and the person Matsutake. So it's and this one might not be poisonous. We have recent rumors, but we have no volunteers. So Amanita silvicola. And no, that's the Smithsoniana has a protruding tubular root base. Oh, these are quartz, more quartz. Okay, and so then we have here a bunch of corals. The most beautiful here is this red one. We have 4 species of red ones. I know 2 by name. One is Spora and the other one is Stunzii for the late Seattle mycologist Daniel Stuntz. And we don't know much about edibility. We have like over 80 species of corals here in the Pacific Northwest, and we have very little knowledge. We have a hard time attaching species names. You need to do microscopy, so we have limited knowledge about edibility. Some people eat corals without knowing any names, but most of us just don't eat corals. We eat one yellow one in spring that grows when the morels are out. Spora, it's big, yellow, and it's only one species, and that's good. So I can't attach any of the names, but here we have the little ones, the Clavariolinas, Cinera or Cristata, and now I heard DNA tells us that Cinera and Cristata is the same thing. I never could tell them apart, but you know, I'm not that precise about many mushrooms that it's a lucky case when, you know, when I find out it's one species and I could differentiate it before. So that's a secondary infection here, and then you shouldn't be eating it. But I think that's quite underrated. It's easy to identify. We have it all through the winter here, and it has a good structure, nice fungal taste. Cristata or Cinera. Cinera like for ash, because it's ash colored. Really dark spots, forest ground, and there's one more bolete.
That's a bolete. Oh yeah.
Philoporus. So this is that's the gilt bolete, and we found it yesterday too. And when young and fresh, I mean the yellow is so intense, and it's a dye mushroom too. So you get good colors out of this guy. Who found that?
That's excellent.
Really? Is that rare out
It
here?
is. We found yesterday two, and the day before we found one. So it's out, but it's not abundant, for sure not.
We find a lot of them in New Jersey or similar species.
Yeah. Well, we have a couple names here. One is Arenaria or so, and our species names don't make fully sense yet. So, yeah, the gilt bolete. Gilt bolete, yes. Oh, here, over there with the boletes. Okay, so now polypores, right? We have some turkey tails. Everybody might know their turkey tails. Make nice soups. You can make stock out of them. Medicinal value. We have some government-sponsored research in the US. People who get chemotherapy treatment get turkey tail extract, and they're already in the second or the third round. It really helps people on chemo. Now, if they were really daring, they would give people just turkey tails and no chemo and see what's happening. So that's what I'm waiting for.
What's the name of a turkey tail?
Trametes versicolor. Yeah. Or it used to be Coricolus. Coriolus. Thank you. No, that's very different. That's later on. Then we have here we have the red-belted conch. You still see the red in there. Formitopsis pinicola, the most common conch out here that digests basically the whole forests. Been used by native people from the east coast to the west coast as a medicinal, and also in East Asia. Very abundant here, and you can grind it up and make an extract with alcohol or decoction. Then we
So
have,
it's a good dye.
it's a good dye. Which color you get out of it?
I got that from Idaho.
Uh,
In the reddish family.
it's reddish. Okay, interesting. Well, red-belted conch. There should be some red in there. It's shown a little older. Yeah, that's. I don't know what's going on here. Probably the tree fell over, and now it is healing itself. I've seen a Ganoderma yesterday where the top and the bottom was the same, so it fell down and then it closed the top, and that's probably what's happening here too. You know, that it will then grow another fruiting body out of there. Otherwise, what would that be? It's pretty solid. It's not a disease.
Does it grow for like 1 year or a couple of years?
That's perennial. So that the Ganodermas are annuals, not this, the Ganoderma tsuge, or the same as, what's the other one? Forget it. Sorry?
Aplanatum?
No, tsuge we have two,
and the current
Oregonensis and tsuge, DNA says now is one species. So, yeah, matchmaking. It's nice. I never could tell them apart either. They said, oh, tsuge is bigger and it's on hemlocks and the other ones, and you know. Anyways, so this is, yeah, that could be several years old. You can't say this is 1 year, this is one growth phase. So the rings don't work with a tree, but they work with water availability and growth. Here we have a little polyporous, Spadius group, I would guess. Then what else did? That's still a red-belted conch. Well, we talked about the Phaeolus schweinitzii, and that's probably a young red-belted conch. And oh, here, yeah, there. This is still closer. Ganoderma, I think aplanatum. Yeah, there's the artist conch. Welcome to the DC. Yeah. And then here finally, Albatrellus illicii. So Albatrellus started out as polyporous, as everything, well, early on, everything was polyporous. There was a little conky. And illicii, the blue one. And then we have, yesterday we found Ovinus, you might know from Europe too, the sheep polypore. So we have maybe 6, 7 species of Albatrellus. And let's see. I see
A little zoology.
Yeah, I saw some others. Okay, there we have a slime mold. You know which genus?
No.
No. So slime molds, really interesting organisms. They are moving fungi. They pull themselves in a cell protoplasma through the ground, eat all the protein on the way in the form of pollen, spores, insects, fungi, and then they climb up a surface, and then they differentiate into fungal-like fruiting bodies. And you might have heard about a slime mold experiment. Somebody in Japan had the idea, they put food sources out like the subway stations in Japan, in Tokyo, and the slime mold found them all and then developed a network that connected these feeding spots. And would you imagine the slime mold was more efficient in connecting these spots than the subway that grew over 100 years? So, I mean, once I took the Tokyo subway and you look at that system, and it's incredible. And of course, it wasn't designed in one go. So 100 years, you don't get a totally efficient connection. But the slime mold does that. So people looking into using slime molds because it could conduct electricity. So they want to connect it with computers and then their movement and so on. So fascinating stuff.
Has everyone seen it using
Yeah,
the
these
hand lens?
magnifying
Does
glasses,
anybody like to
it's
try?
cool. Oh yes, and the slime molds, we have about 1,000 species, and often the same in the tropics as in the temperate zone. And they call it a dead end of evolution. So it developed a long time ago, and you know, but it never, it stayed with its forms, and still successful, but it didn't take over, you know.
No.
Now I see a couple things I haven't seen before. There's another polypore, and there was a small one. This is a Janoporus, Jan, for the German mycologist Jan, Janoporus hirsutus. And there's a young version. And if you don't doubt it, just taste it. It is really bitter. Beautiful polypore, velvety. I mean, you know, this is like, probably in Japan they would open a coffee where you could pet that mushroom, you know.
It is so sweet.
It is, you know, and it probably would, you pet it and fall asleep. Everybody should have a Janoporus at home. Just don't bite it.